situation, but it's still on.
Is the government still essentially the same government that was there when you finished screening?
No, the government actually sent to me, since I was there, I think there was probably 4 or 5 government. And that was interesting because there was a time there was the Liberation Party that was in power. Then the new Menezes, they call a Democratic PSD, get in power at that time when I was filming a second half of the film. And when I was screening the film, there was still the same party in power, but the president was the Pinto da Costa, who was one of the liberation members of the Liberation Party that was able to free São Tomé. Right now, I'm not sure, but I believe it still is PSD. But sometimes they have a coalition, they have different parties, 2 or 3 parties in power. But it's not about party, and it's about the government. I think the problem in São Tomé, to me, it has also to do with many different issues, and no government was able to solve the problem. And Portugal, mainly Portugal, should do something for them. But we can talk more, probably more after we watch the film. There's going to be a lot of questions and a lot of talks.
Okay. There's another question that says, were you ever able to determine exactly how many Cape Verdeans are in São Tomé and intend or are asking to be able to return?
Some Cape Verdeans, after I made the film, some Cape Verdeans was able to go back to Cape Verde, but it's difficult for them, even if they wanted to go to Cape Verde, but they don't have any connection with the country anymore. A lot of them doesn't have any contact, any family members in the country. So they don't even know the village or city anymore. So it's kind of difficult for them to go back and start their life as a human being, with decent life condition, because they don't know the situation in Cape Verde. They left because years ago, Cape Verde was poor. So there was a lot of problem. But right now, Cape Verde is a good country and has developed a lot of infrastructure, a lot of healthcare better than São Tomé, and a lot of other things. But they don't know about that. They don't trust that. So they kind of say, okay, I'm here, I may just stay here. That's one that I was able to talk to Danny. Sometime without a camera, they will tell me a lot of stories. But even if I had a camera, they will tell me anything. And I remember this old man told me, I gotta die here. There's nothing I can do. Here's my place. I'm gonna live here until my end of my life. Kind of sad, but that's a reality with them.
Okay, you have one comment, thank you, from Iman, who is thanking you for sharing this incredibly moving story and for shedding light on this criminally understudied topic in untold history. Well done. You then have a question from Simone. Your uncle said he couldn't vote. What is the citizenship and passport status of the folks in Sao Tome?
They still have the same Cape Verdean passport or ID. They don't have rights to vote in Sao Tome because even my uncle, 44 years in Sao Tome, that was interesting when he said, no, I cannot vote here. I'm not a citizen. I told him, but how come you're not citizen? You live it 44 years here. He said, no, I cannot vote here. The only place I can vote in is in Cape Verde. But I can vote in the Cape Verdean election, but they cannot vote for the Sao Tome election.
Okay. You have another question from Ajamu, and he's asking, what was the relationship of the people of Sao Tome and Príncipe to the PAIGC during the struggle against the Portuguese? And given that the common enemy and the large number of Cape Verdeans that live there, I think he's asking in that question about what was happening during Cabral's time and what was the role of the folks that had gone off to Sao Tome.
Yeah, Sao Tome was involved with the Cabral and the PIGC. PIGC at that time, for many reasons. Pinto da Costa, Manuel Pinto da Costa, who was president at that time, I was 2014, but I believe he's not president right now. He was friend of Cabral. Aldo Espírito Santo was friend, close to the Cabral and the other leaders. So there was common goal to liberate themselves, to liberate the country, and they were close to PIGC. They support all the causes of Cabral, and of course Cabral helped them as well. And even today, they have good relationship with, the MLTP, the movement for liberation of Sao Tome, who also was good friends with former Cape Verdean President Guenny Pires and all the government of Cape Verde. They were very close. They had a good relationship. I believe they still have that relationship today.
Okay, there was someone who had their hand up, they took it down, but let me ask you to do this because Lisa is still saying she can't see other people. I'm going to unmute everyone, and when I do so, I'm going to ask that you mute yourself microphone-wise, but that way you'll be able to see who else is online. I also want to recognize that one of the Stone Center's board members, Professor Terza Lima Neves, is also online, and who also is from Cape Verde. And as I mentioned to her, she's going to be an unofficial expert with us today as well. So as you see yourself being unmuted, please make sure you mute yourself, and then you can allow yourself to be seen. All right, to go to the next question, this is from Precious Stone. She's saying, thank you for this moving and informative film. A couple of questions. Could you comment on the relations? Very important question that she's bringing up too. Can you comment, because in one of the pieces, just as your uncle was about to speak about Mozambicans that were there, it cut out. So she's asking, can you comment on the relations between the Cape Verdeans and the other ethnic groups in Sao Tome? For example, the descendants of Angolan slaves. Also, what surprised you the most while you were filming in Sao Tome?
Thank you for the question. Cape Verdeans are friends with the people who live in the house. Even Sao Tome's, Angola, descendant slavery, and Mozambique also. They're good friends. But the government and the people from Sao Tome, from the city, treat badly Cape Verdean. They don't have good relationship, unfortunately. The majority of the Santomen people are Cape Verdean descent today. There's a lot of interconnection, a lot of mixing. Even we had a minister of I believe, culture. At some point, it was Cape Verdean descent. Even the directors of the president cabinet, I believe one of them, there was Cape Verdean descent. There's a lot of Cape Verde involved in the politics in Santomen. Some of them are even Congress members, but they cannot identify themselves as a Cape Verdean. If they identify themselves as a Cape Verde, they're completely cut off for whatever thing they're trying to do. It was very hard for me to get in touch with any Cape Verdean that was related to who has any responsibility or any kind of government power. At that time, I was trying to interview them, you know, to have different perspective, but it was not possible. And some of the person that I spoke to told me, again, they will not tell, they are not in the position to get on camera to tell you whatever they think, because otherwise they're going to be, you know, they will lose all the benefits, all the privileges. So they don't want to do that. But I was able to talk with Cape Verdeans from who was born in Santomen, who was involved in a different kind of organization. Then I understand the politics and the, you know, how things works behind that. But it was interesting to me when I was in Santomen 2014. I had a meeting with the Minister of Culture, and he wanted to invite me to work with them in kind of promoting visual arts in Santomen. But the project didn't move forward because there was a exchange governments. They, you know, every time you exchange government, things start like new, and it was not possible.
Okay.
But yes, Cape Verde are good friends with all the ethnic groups in Santomen, but unfortunately, the reality, because the house is like you live in a forest, you don't have any access, you don't have access to school, you don't have access to healthcare, anything. Everything you do, you have to go to city, and unfortunately.
Is it the same Creole that's spoken, or how has Creole evolved there so that Angolans, Mozambicans, those from Guinea-Bissau, and how
they kind of speak.
Yeah, I saw you speaking, and it seemed that there was not that much of a problem for you.
No, they speak a lot of Cape Verdeans speak Creole, still speaking Creole. They speak Creole, but some of them speak Portuguese, but not in more like a Portuguese Creole, kind of Cape Verdean Creole, but Angularis, who are descendants of slaves, they have their own language, and sometimes you don't understand them, but they are very, very friendly. They can talk to you easily, and they explain things to you.
Okay. You had a question from Lisa McDonald about contract workers in other parts of Africa, and actually Terza came in and noted that this system was very prevalent in various parts of Africa, and that in fact Cape Verdeans were also sent to other parts of Africa, including Senegal. But were you able, or did you look at the way contract workers operated in other parts of the continent?
I had a contact to the contract laborers from Angola and also Mozambique. But these film folks particularly about contract laborers from Santomen. I was able, after finish the filming and during the process making the film, I was able to learn a lot of way the Angolan contract laborers was a little different. They had a better condition, not like the contract laborers from São Tomé. In Mozambique, it was similar to São Tomé. But in Angola, because it was later in the 70s, so the Portuguese almost knew they would not control forever. You know, they had to leave. So the situation in Angola was a little better. Somehow they had a better condition.
Right. The other part of the question is that you'll note that for a number of years, until to some extent now, in Southern Africa, you had contract workers that went to work in the mines, particularly in what was then Rhodesia, was now Zimbabwe, but also in South Africa. In fact, there's actually a special language that was developed in the mines so that contract workers from different parts of Southern Africa, including Mozambique, would be able to, Fanakalo is the language. And that is a language that's only spoken by those workers in that part of the world, because they had to figure out how to speak to each other. So contract workers, in essence, particularly in places where you had plantation economies or mining economies, or even oil drilling economies, you'll find that contract workers were very, very, very common. You have another question here from Yvette, and this is a similar question to one that was also asked by Professor Bookman, Gwendolyn Bookman, and that was what kinds of things can be done and to help individuals who have been away from home so long, and is the Cape Verdean government participating or developing any kind of program or project to help people get back home who want to come home?
The government of Cape Verde was able to sponsor some Cape Verdeans who wants to go to Cape Verde to visit. I was able to participate in the program at that time because it was a PICV Empower. It was much easy to deal with them. And this new government, I don't know what kind of policy they have for them, but the good things right now, we have a permanent ambassador in São Tomé. So maybe this new government have some, kind of program to help them. But the most important thing to me, to who wants to help is not go through the government. Is go directly to the community here in the States. There's a community in Boston, Massachusetts. There's some organization that I know and who wants to help. I'm more than happy to get you in touch with them directly, but also with family in São Tomé that I know, and they're also part of the filming. The most important thing to me, again, is to help young men to get education, to get sponsorship, to be able to travel to the States, for example, to study any type of subject. That's something they are very interested. Also, there's a lot of way to help them because, there's a program with the foreign government, foreign organization that also help them directly with medical supplies and school supplies and kind of material they need.
Right. And we'll note down here in the chat that Professor Lima Neves has also informed us that even for those Cape Verdeans that went to Senegal, some have been able to return, and also giving you the names or for the acronym for PAICV is African Party for the Independence of Cape Verde, which has been they and the MPD have been the governments that have gone back and forth in Cape Verde over the past 25 to 30 years, actually going back to the multi-party opening back in the early 90s. So the other question, Guenny, that comes up, and I think this was asked with a little bit of with a little bit of laughter in mind. What party did your uncle ever declare? He was very smart, because whoever was in power, he wasn't going to go on camera and say he was in favor of the other party. But has he declared a party by any chance?
No, he mentioned the government of Cape Verde, and of course he mentioned the PACV. At that time, it was the party in power. So he said that he will vote when he get to the country.
Right.
Probably for that party.
Right. Have you spoken to him recently?
My uncle?
Yes.
My uncle passed away 3 years ago.
I didn't know. Yes.
Yeah. That was unfortunately one. He returned to Cape Verde a few years later. He passed away.
So he was able to see home before.
Well, he lived in the country, in the island for like 3 years before he passed away.
Yeah. Sorry to hear that, but glad he was able to get back home.
Thank you.
Before. Are you planning to continue this line of inquiry? One of the things that I think most folks are probably getting a sense of is that part of your interest is to magnify Cape Verde in terms of people's understanding of where it is, how it came to be, how it factors into the history of Africa, and some of the other elements about it, so that people are much, much more aware. So what is it that you're working on now?
My major project right now is a film about Amilcar Cabral. Hopefully I can complete that by end of this year, early next year. But also I have other projects, fictional stories, and I'm planning to continue to work with different organizations, school, universities in Cape Verde, and trying to develop a program, online course, digital cinematography for young Cape Verdeans. I'm working on a film festival called Jarfog Cinefest. Hopefully we can make it first edition this coming October. Also, I have the students in the West Africa that I wanted to help. Also, I want to go back to Tome to making another film about, after all this time, almost 10 years now, I want to go back and probably see what's happening right now. But there's a lot of stories about Cape Verdeans, Cape Verdean America. There's a lot of Cape Verdean in the diaspora. So there's many things that must be done. And as a filmmaker, I feel, it's my responsibility to help much I can to share the experience and the stories about my people.
Right. Can you mention Cabral? Can you, for some people who may not know who Cabral is, can you say who you're speaking of when you speak of Amilcar Cabral?
Yeah, Amilcar Cabral, he, for many of us, is our father, a spiritual father in many ways, but also help us to be free today to talk to you guys. Cabral, his story and his knowledge about the struggle and his strategies, and also the world recognized Cabral many, many times. And even today, we still don't have enough knowledge about Cabral and his message. So this film is about what happened to Cabral in a personal life. Who was Cabral as a husband, a friend, and cousin, and uncle? I interviewed his close family members, his wife, his daughter, and nephews, cousins, and the people who was able to work with him Commandant Pedro Pires. I interviewed former wife of Agostinho Neto in Angola. I interviewed former congressman in São Tome. I interviewed people in Guinea. I have been working this film for the last 15 years, and I have traveled a lot to film in different countries. I interviewed people in Europe, in the US. So yeah, we have more than 300 hours of footage already, and we're trying to get 90 minutes of the whole things. But probably after this film, continue to work, to share the information about Cabral in Guinea-Bissau, trying to create a visual education program for them, to kind of, Cabral also, he was a favor for visual storytelling. He was able to send 4 young men to Cuba to educate themselves and to become filmmakers. One of them is the very famous Guinean filmmaker Flora Gomes, also Sanya. So we try to continue this mission to kind of, give our contribution to better educate young people, but also to educate society about Cabral.
Right. Well, of course, Professor Lima Neves has also noted that Cabral is understood to be the father of Cape Verdean independence and the father of the nation. He also, however, was very much recognized outside of Cape Verde and across the continent and internationally, including for many communities of people of African descent in Latin America, the Caribbean, and in the US, particularly from those who were interested in liberation of the continent. And he's not only acknowledged as a liberation leader, but also as a person who theorized about what was happening for all oppressed peoples in the world. So he was quite an impressive figure for many. And interestingly enough, it's almost every generation that rediscovers his work and begins to study him anew. And we find out more and more and more. Guenny, the way we're going to close, if there are no more questions, no more comments, can you tell people who are interested in acquiring the film what they should do in order to do so?
For colleges and universities, they can send us email and request film to be presented to their organization. To who wants to buy DVD, they can buy it through texanfilm.com. Also, they can send us an email if they need anything regarding to helping people in São Tomé, also to participate. Also, we have the interest to go to your school to do the same type of program with your school. We're available to help much you can to contribute to educate ourselves, to share experience, but also to be part of this movement.
Okay.
A luta continua, vitória é certa.
É certa. Let me ask, there are people who, fortunately, they are chatting and you can see it to everyone if you go to your chat session. If there's anyone else who'd like to say anything before we end, I'm going to unmute everyone, which means that if you're listening to Search for Tomorrow, you got to cut that down. So everybody, I'm sort of aging myself there, but anyway. Is anyone else who wants to say anything to get?
I would like to say something. My name is Beatrice Morales, Ava. And I just want to congratulate you on the great, fantastic, emotional, I think, movie.
Thank you.
I think that everyone that has now appropriated the identity as African diaspora people our journey is so emotional. And I think it could only be shown in movies like this. When I'm in front of the classroom, I try to put my own experience as an immigrant from Cuba to my students. And then I think that they begin to understand what African diaspora means when I start coming from a personal story. And I think your movie does that. I mean, there was a time when they're all touching and they're re-encountering, and it's almost a universal feeling. I remember when we returned back home to Cuba, and the reaction of young teenagers or young people embracing their grandparents at the airport of Jose Marti was such a spiritual encounter. And you capture that in your movies, and it took me back to those moments. So I think that we would love to show your movie in other places, because we talk a lot about critical thinking and all those processes that are also part in your movie in terms of globalization and how much alike and how similar we are in the African diaspora. We're all being affected by this present form of losing our own individual identities because of globalization. And you capture that, you capture how people are solving problems in order to maintain themselves grounded in the land, which really is our identity. Because, you know, as your film shows, the concept of having land, it gives you something to build your identity. It's so difficult to build an identity. You know, we try to do it in the urban neighborhoods. I think that, you know, from somebody from New York, I think we do a good job at that. But it could easily be deconstructed by dominant forces so rapidly that it doesn't last more than a decade, as opposed to in our own homeland. When you're mitigating with land, and that comes out. And I think the women too, I think that I love the way that you projected the women, so matriarchal, so strong, that I want to be like that. I mean, it made me feel like, you know, I have lost so much of that my mother and my aunt had, you know, in the process of assimilating and trying to be accepted, you know, in academia in particular.
Thank you.
And you blended all that, and so it was a movie made from the heart, and you touched my heart.
Thank you, Beatrice. Yeah. Thank you. Terza, you are waiting. Please go ahead. Unmute yourself if you will, and then you can go right ahead.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thanks for, first of all, hi, Guenny. It's been a while.
Hey, Teresa, how you doing?
Tudo direito, Ivo?
Alguma novidade?
Sim, boa, tem razão.
Yeah, obrigado.
Obrigada, boa. I'm just thinking, Guenny, we go way back the Journey of Cabo Verde, one of his earlier films. And I just wanted to, again, my brother, take the time to thank you for highlighting Lusophone Africa. We're often invisible. We're often not thought about. I don't know if it's because of the fact that, you know, it's a non-English language, but thank you for all the work that you continue to do to not only promote Cabo Verde, but to promote Tome and Príncipe in Mozambique and Angola. Guinea-Bissau, I really thank you. We're in this together, as you said, a luta continua. Sure. I also, I urge my colleagues that are here listening to you and engaging in this conversation to also use Guenny's films and other literature from Cabo Verde and other Portuguese-speaking African world to engage with your students, with your colleagues, because it exists. It's slowly getting translated to English. So again, thank you, Guenny. Thank you, Joseph, for putting this together. And like you said, a luta continua, a vitória é certa.
Obrigado. Thank you, Teresa. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Professor. And, you know, it's my pleasure and honor always to show this film. And I'm going to tell you guys before we finish why I made this film. I was in the process to finish a film in early 2000s. And my mother asked me, you go everywhere and you try to film everybody. Why can't you go to San Tome and try to find my brother? I told him, I cannot go right now, Mama, because I have work to do. I was in the middle of finishing my thesis in Portugal, and I have to make a film. It became the journey of Cape Verde, my first feature documentary. And years later, I was in the States. I was living in Los Angeles, and then of course, I want to go to Boston to say goodbye to my mom and to say, okay, listen, now is the time. I'm going to San Tome to find your brother, my uncle. I never met my uncle until the day we met. So it was interesting. In 3 days, when I arrived in San Tome after 3 days, I was able to meet my uncle and to get an opportunity to call my mother, and for the first time in about 25 years, to hear, to record them. That was a very emotional part of the filming, and it's very personal story, but I think, like Tim Reed said once, this film touches everybody, because everybody has mother, everybody has family. So in a humble way, I thank you, my uncle, for the opportunity. Even he's not with us today, but his voice and his message is with us, and it will stay forever. That's the more important thing to me. And every time, everywhere, even 10 years later, this film is very touching to us as a family, as African. I think it's a responsibility to continue to work with the diaspora, to kind of, like Teresa said, to share this powerful message. And I think that's the way I see, the Cape Verdean people are connected with everybody who are mixed from many different ethnic groups. And myself, I'm Jewish, I'm Black, I have family all over the place. It's interesting, and I thank you guys for the opportunity to share this part of a story with you, and hopefully soon we can do much more work.
Well, if you all note again in the chat line, Teresa has put a YouTube link to the trailer for the other film Guenny is referencing, The Journey of Cape Verde. A lot of you are writing in thanking us for having done it, but I can tell you, for those of us who have been working in empty offices or working from home, it's wonderful to see your faces and know that you're still out there and still doing things. It's wonderful to see you. An email is a nice way to keep in touch, but it can never take the place of seeing your faces and having the opportunity to interact with everyone. Folks are thanking me for having done this. I want you to know, as always, what the Stone Center does is a Stone Center staff collaboration that I'm oftentimes pushed to the front, but Sharif is there. You now see who's our program manager, and he does the bulk of this kind of work, particularly when it comes to selecting films. And also Stephanie Colbert, is the one that put together all the information and gathered. Sharif, how many people that we have on today total that viewed the film? Unmute yourself.
Sorry, unmute yourself is the catchphrase now.
Catchphrase.
115 signed up.
So we had a community of 115 people who were able to participate in this film. And for those of you who've been to the Stone Center, that just about equals the Hitchcock Room. So we still had our program. We were still able to celebrate Guenny, which is the most important thing. So I just want you to join me in thanking him for getting to his uncle and having that responsibility to his mom so that in some way she was able to see her brother before he passed away. For those of you who registered, we will send you all of the links for Guenny's film and the ways that if you acquire this film, that he'll be able to do so. For Lisa, if you still haven't seen the film, I think that it's going to still be available to you up until 5 o'clock if you want to see it now. Okay, she's trying to take her mute off. It's okay, you don't have to do that. So with that, I'm going to say thank you to everyone. If there's anything else you'd like to say, you can still email me here at the Stone Center. Good to see you, Anne. Good to see you, Beatrice, Precious, Miriam, Victoria, Lisa, all of you. Thank you so much for joining us, Ajamu, and others. Take care. All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.